Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and I wanted to talk today for a second about black leadership in general and what I think about black leadership, particularly in the context of some stuff that people have been asking me to comment on. Some people have asked me to comment on it. Some people have specifically asked me to shape a certain message. Some people have asked me not to say anything. But I, check into the core of my spirit, and the core of my spirit says that when something needs to be talked about, it's time to talk about it. And just so in this game that I play every day, my loyalty is not to any particular person or any particular group all the time. My loyalty pretty much most of the time, if I can do this, is to the truth and to the people. The people meaning you, the people that I talk to every day. I entered into this game kind of with the expectation that I wouldn't have a lot of friends. In case you don't know, I lose a lot of famous friends because there's kind of a type of corruption that occurs in this space where if you become quote unquote prominent, like people know who you are and they hear what you have to say, then other so-called prominent people will connect with you, and what happens is there's some what would I say, some sort of cooperative or almost blanket of corruption that develops where you're kind of expected to look out for your friends before you look out for your integrity or for the people that you represent. I think it happens a lot in politics, but it also happens with wealthy people as well as people that are perceived to be powerful or whatever. So, for example, let's say that I'm really good friends with Bill Cosby, and I'm proud of this relationship, and suddenly Bill Cosby's hit with a rape scandal. Well, I get a call from Bill Cosby's people asking. I'm not saying this happened to me. I'm saying this is the kind of thing that would happen. You get a call from Bill Cosby's people, maybe saying, "Hey, can you say this? Can you shape the message this way, or can you not say anything, or can you take down the article that you wrote about the topic? Things like that." And I just don't like that. I mean, that's just not because you end up deviating so much from your core mission and from who you are that you end up not liking yourself anymore. Because for me personally, I think it might make you feel like you are a coward, like you don't have the internal fortitude to remain committed to whatever purpose you claimed to commit yourself to. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that I am the most perfectly ethical human being in the world. I'm not that person. I don't want to be on that pedestal. But I can say that I try my best to be my best, right? Being good at something doesn't mean that you're always good. It means that you have to do a good job of trying to do a good job. And so each and every day, that's what I try to do. Now, one of the things that I was asked to kind of talk about a little bit, and that I thought about some, was this interesting thing going on with Dr. Umar Johnson, and just some stuff with the stripper, and and money and all this other stuff, and in case you don't know, in case you've been under a rock, or in case you don't follow this kind of stuff, Dr. Umar Johnson is this brilliant orator, and I think an amazing visionary in terms of what Black people need to hear. He delivers a very strong message, and he delivers it in a really effective way. I'm a big supporter of Dr. Umar Johnson, and I stand by that support, even when people point out imperfections in who he is. One of the things, and this leads me to my point, this is not just a matter of talking about people, this is a matter of talking about a broader lesson that I think we can think about here. Um, I think that when it comes to how we evaluate people we admire, we have to get away from this sort of dichotomous, one dimensional framework where either you are wonderful and perfect and magical and beyond reproach, or you are just garbage. You ain't shit. You're not worth a nickel. We need to just get rid of you altogether. Um, Not only will that cause you to throw away a lot of good people, because that's why our political system's so screwed up. Is because as soon as one flaw in a politician's background is revealed, we throw away the whole politician, and we end up electing somebody who was probably just as corrupt or more so, who has the wrong policies or who sold out to the corporate money because the corporations were able to protect their image from meaningful scrutiny. Um, I think that we end up throwing away good people, And at the same time, on the other extreme, if you get into this hero worship, you become a victim. You can become manipulated. You can become part of a cult where someone has occupied your mind space. And I don't. I personally, first of all, I will say this: when I've had people trying to slap a term on me like black leader, I don't say anything, but I'm always hesitant to accept this because now if you want somebody that can give you information, advice, guidance, support, yeah, I mean, I studied in school a long time. I know a few things, so maybe I can tell you some things that will help you make better decisions. But ultimately, you are the greatest black leader in your household. You are the one who needs to make the final decision about what you and your family choose to embrace. I don't think you should have this sort of blind loyalty to any person. I mean, sometimes you can give somebody the benefit of the doubt. Like, for example, if somebody lays out an idea and you don't understand it, but you've seen the person's track record and you like them, or you tend to trust what they say, or you found that they've been right in the past. Maybe you can give them the benefit of the doubt. You can say, well, I don't quite get it, but I'm going to think about that a little bit. I'm going to research that, um, and maybe I'm going to support it because I support this person. That's fine. But when you get to the point where you're like, oh Lordy Bill, no, you didn't say nothing bad about my blah blah blah. I mean, that's silly. I mean, people do that with their pastors. People did that with Bishop Eddie Long, and he was up there molesting their children. People have did that in the Catholic Church, and you know what their pastors were doing to the children, right? In fact, I knew an Italian woman who told me. She said, when I grew up, if you went to your mother and told her that the priest molested you, she would smack you in your mouth. So that makes her a bad mother because she did not have the intelligence to question the individuals with whom she trusted with her children. So, what I would just say is this: I don't get into hero worship. I'm not even really sure about the term black leadership. I think that we can have advisors in the community who share information that we pay attention to, that we reference. Absolutely. But if you're just marching behind somebody like a zombie, I don't know if that's good for you or good for the black community. Now let's get to the deeper issue here. But I'll just say this just for the record, so people know where I stand. I had people think that somehow I just am anti Umar because one of our bloggers posted the article about him and this thing with the stripper on my wall. Just so you know, I have a lot of bloggers that they don't all work for me. We're all partners. They work with me. I don't walk around acting like I'm always somebody's big boss. But they write what they want to write. They talk about what they want to talk about. Some of the people on our team don't like Umar Johnson, and I don't tell them that they can't dislike Umar Johnson because I want all ideas on the table. Yvette Carnell, as you know, is one of my best friends in the world. She doesn't think highly about Umar Johnson or Louis Farrakhan, and she's very open about that. And I'm very open about saying, you know what, sister, if you have an opinion, share that opinion. If I can't debate you on that opinion and defend my point of view, then that means maybe I don't have a point. Maybe I don't have a leg to stand on. And at the end of the day, what I figured out is that I've thought about this for a long time. Is that most of the things that we fight about on the internet and in the world, there really is no right answer. A lot of times, the people that get the quote unquote right answer are the people who have the most power, or who scream and bitch the most, and who fight the most, or who have the most money. They get to shape what gets defined to be right versus wrong. So, actually, when I figured out that most of the things that we debate about on a day to day basis don't always have a right or wrong answer or a clear black and white answer, I realized that a lot of things come down to perspective and experience, your personal interests, and also it reduced my debating energy by about 80%. It doesn't mean I don't engage in meaningful conversations with people, but if somebody wants to debate me on an issue, they might say, "Hey, Dr. Watkins, I want to debate you on about your view on black wealth, on your view on racism." I spend more time listening than I spend arguing because number one, I'm not going to change your opinion. If we're talking for 30 minutes or an hour, I'm probably not going to change your whole point of view. At best, I can give you other ideas to consider, and the best way I can get the most from the conversation is to just shut up and be open-minded. And then when you ask my opinion, I'll tell you what I think, but I don't present my opinion as gospel. I think that is I think that that's everybody thinking that they have a monopoly on the truth is one of the things that will ultimately destroy this country. Right now, the internet has given so many people a voice. Everybody feels like they know the best way to run the world, and everybody's willing to fight over it. And I think it's going to end up creating these really interesting battle lines that will only get worse through time. Now, just for the record, in terms of how I feel about Umar Johnson and this thing with the stripper, I don't really care that much about a man's sex life, to be honest with you. Sex is natural. Sex is the foundation for the creation of all human life. In other words, none of us would be here in this conversation right now if somebody we're not fucking. I know I said the word fucking. I don't. I try to cuss sparingly, but I said that because you've said it before and you've heard it before, and you know what the hell I'm talking about. So when we reveal these alleged hypocrisies over somebody's sex life, all we're doing is we're revealing what almost everybody does in their spare time. Everybody has sex at some point. Everybody has sexual desires. And we live in a society that somehow thinks that if I reveal something about you sexually that people don't know, that I've somehow exposed you to be some sort of fraud or some sort of bad person. When it's really silly, because if you pulled up the cloak, the curtain on anybody's personal life, you're probably gonna find some stuff that will surprise you, that will make you say, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe Mrs. So and So cheated on her husband with four men," or whatever. I mean, stuff like that happens. So I just don't care about a man's sex life. When I watched the little videos and the text messages about the stripper released and everything. She calls herself the conscious stripper. So when I say the stripper, she is a stripper, but she's more than a stripper. She's a person. Um, here's some more honest thoughts that I had. Um, Number one, it was a reminder of something that I share with men and women as well. I tell my daughters this too. You do have to be careful about who you let into your life. I think for men, sometimes our vulnerability is exposed through sex. Some of the most powerful men in the history of the world have been brought down over sex because the desire is very, very strong, and it's natural, but at the same time, you have to be very cautious about it because that is the drug that might get you hooked and make you exposed. I've heard about professional athletes being extorted by women that they slept with who knew that these guys would be looking for what the jump offs, what they call jump offs, right? Just somebody they could just sleep with and move on. And in fact, I heard a really disturbing story and in very good detail from a woman who said that she knew some young girls like between 15 and 19 who would meet athletes and ballers and guys who have money, and they would, and some of these guys actually would say, okay, let me see your ID, make sure you're over 18. I'm not going to sleep with a young woman. And when they would sleep with, and they would show ID, they all had fake ID. And they now mind you, I'm not going to get into the whole ethical issue of whether or not a 30-something-year-old, 40-something-year-old man should be sleeping with a girl who's barely 18. That stuff, I'll let you kind of debate that. But basically they would use date rape drugs on the guys and put them to sleep, and then they would do things while the guys were sleeping, like take pictures of him in bed with a 15-year-old, and then extort him when he woke up and say, "Look, if you don't give us $10,000." It was like tiny amounts of money, relatively speaking, but it was not too tiny. And they'd say, "If you don't give us $10,000, we're going to send this picture to your team, to the media, and to your wife." Right? So basically, a man's inability to control his sex organs can create a whole lot of heartache, headache, and humiliation and embarrassment. I think every man falls victim to it, but every man should be conscious of it and never think that you are at a point where you're untouchable. What I really saw also with this woman, and I'm not going to say nasty things about her. I think honestly, if I were talking to Umar more again, I met Umar once, and I've always admired Umar, but I've called him and texted him and emailed him, and he never gets back because Umar is kind of busy and whatnot, and I don't think he really has a team around him. I kind of wish he had more people to support him because his platform is very big. He's very wise. He's very charismatic. He's very powerful, and I believe he's very knowledgeable. I've been in several movies with Umar, and I watch what he has to say, and I say, wow, this guy is really somebody that I want people to listen to. It doesn't mean I would agree with everything he says, but you don't. If you're a thoughtful person, you're not going to agree with everything anybody says. You love your mother and your father, I'm sure, but you don't agree with everything that they say. At least I hope not. So, um, you know, anyway, so Umar, I've reached out, but he never got back to me. So we don't know each other like that. But when I saw this thing with the stripper, I probably would have told him, either don't say anything or say something that will, allow the situation to move forward and allow people to keep believing in you. I feel that when you get into this whole idea of, oh, she's a blankety blank and calling her names and all that, I mean, it does give the impression that you don't have respect for women. And a lot of people who support you are women. A lot of people who believe in you the most are women. In fact, black women, actually, it's ironic. It's not disconnected from the fact that black women are the most religious group of people in the world, or not in the world, excuse me, in America. And the study showed this. And because of this, and again, I don't know exactly where all of this comes from, but I have theories, but I won't go into that. But because of this, they tend to get to a space where if they really believe in you, they believe in you. They don't question you. And and I think that he has a lot of women that really listen to what he has to say, for good reason. They're not stupid. I think they know that Umar does care about the black family. He does have views that they can benefit from. In fact, I think I like the fact that Umar is not politically correct all the time, because it's political correctness and some of the stuff that we're seeing, especially since Obama got elected from the liberals, some of this stuff is not healthy for the black community. I won't go into exactly everything right now. You can watch other videos, but a lot of this is not good for you or good for your community. And so I like the fact that Umar says what needs to be said sometimes. So I think that this young lady, the stripper, and I don't have her name in front of me. I should have her name. I should just call her the stripper, but the conscious stripper. That's her name. So I'll go with that. I got a sense that number one, I think Umar probably shouldn't have said much about it. If anything at all, he maybe say something positive or something that will let you just move on. Number two, I got a sense that or I definitely don't think he should have insulted her. I saw him say some things that were pretty nasty. I think he was pretty upset about it, which I don't blame him for being upset, but at the same time, there's a way to handle things. Number three, I got a sense that this woman, unfortunately, it appeared that she was disappointed that their relationship did not pan out to be more than just sex. And that's another thing I tell people I know who are on their way to fame or whatever it is you want to call it. And I guess I have baby fame. Like, a lot of people know about me, but I'm not Will Smith. But I'm not an average guy on the street. I get recognized and stuff like that. When you get that fame, you do have women that find that appealing. And you also have to understand that what you might think of as a jump off, as a quick hit it and quit it type situation, the other person may not see it that way. They may be looking at you as their once in a lifetime opportunity. And maybe for her, because she'd already spent so much time fantasizing about Umar and being attracted to him, I got the impression that she saw this thing as like, wow, this is my opportunity to become something more than just whatever I was before. I can be the queen that I've always deserved to be, because I can be next to Dr. Umar Johnson and people will see me in a certain light. I picked up on that by virtue of the fact that she used the name conscious stripper. That says to me, like, I'm not just a stripper, I'm a conscious stripper, which makes me a little bit different. I'm not looking for guys in the club who are throwing up dollar bills per se. I'm looking for guys who are doing things similar to what Umar Johnson does. Not to say Umar couldn't be in the club throwing up dollar bills, though. I don't know. I'm not judging. It is what it is. Um, so, so what I just saw was, I saw her being disappointed. Do I agree with her decision to try to expose Umar? I don't know how I felt about that. I didn't like that very much, because it's like, what are you exposing? Are you exposing that he's a man, that he has a penis, that he uses it? I mean, that's nothing new. That's like exposing the fact that somebody used the bathroom this morning. Oh my God, I saw Dr. Boyce Watkins take a shit. They news at 11. That's not news. We all use the bathroom. Now, the only area of vulnerability I did see is, I know someone had mentioned to me that Umar had said something about practicing celibacy. So it's kind of tough to speak on celibacy and get caught in a situation like this. That does create, if that is true, if that's what he spoke on, that does create obvious and clear hypocrisy. If not, just some sort of flaw that says that he may come short of the standard that he claims to have reached. And I think, again, that goes back to me to a very interesting dilemma that a lot of public figures run into. See, the public wants you to be perfect. Like politicians have to pretend to be perfect. They can't pretend to be, or they can't, admit that they are flawed people. They have to kind of act like they've got it all together in every category. And so, because that pressure is there, some people go for that. They fall into that. They'll say, okay, if you want me to play the role, I'm gonna play the perfect role. But nobody's perfect. So then, when the imperfection is revealed, the person gets knocked off the pedestal. I saw that happen really bad with Tiger Woods and Bill Cosby. And I point those two particular cases, and maybe O.J. Simpson a little bit, but more so though the first two. I point out those particular cases because those are cases where guys not only fell really hard due to what they were doing in their personal lives, but also they were kind of set up for this by presenting an image of perfection from the beginning, setting this crazy standard. I mean, Tiger Woods allowed corporate America to shape him into a walking corporation. And when you are perched up like that, you're just, I mean, you're just this beautiful, powerful porcelain statue to the world. Um, there's a lot of vulnerability that comes with that. If that falls apart on you, that could be real ugly. And so, for example, if Charles Barkley had been found to be sleeping with strippers, nobody would care because Charles Barkley shows you his imperfections all the time. I don't like Barkley that much, but that's one of the areas where I think he's very smart. He shows you who he is, and that's what it is. What it is. People love you for who you are rather than who you pretend to be. In Cosby's case, I felt like Cosby had become so self-righteous. He wagged his finger at so many people. He condemned so many people for their behavior that when his own imperfections came to the surface, a lot of people were licking their chops because they've been waiting to take Cosby down for a really long time. Now, what I will say is, going back with Umar, I don't know. I'm not going to talk about what he should or shouldn't speak about, but what I can say is that, if you're speaking on celibacy, then you're kind of admitting that you have to live by a higher standard, which means that you maybe have to be a little bit more careful. So that means that if you do dirt or if you do something you shouldn't be doing, maybe you have to be a little more cautious. But again, everybody makes mistakes, and maybe that's a mistake that he made. The last thing I'll say is, when it comes to Umar, one thing I also say in terms of how I feel about him is, he had this school that he was trying to build, and I thought it was a great idea. I think it's visionary. I think it's necessary. I gave money to the school. Um, and I gave money to the school because we need spaces where black boys can be educated and raised to be black men. We need armies of black people, intellectual armies mostly, and maybe physical and economic armies as well. We need armies of men that are being trained to have a mindset that is protective of their community. We don't have that right now, right? We might have a thug army. We might have armies of basketball players and rappers and stuff like that, but we don't have armies of intelligent, empowered, conscious black men who care about their community and care about their families and want to build black families and black communities. We don't have that. Um, we don't. A lot of these young men don't even have fathers. So I supported the school for that reason because I trust Umar's ability to run a school. If you're going to trust all these racist white folks out here to educate your kids, why wouldn't you trust a man like Umar who has gone out of his way to show you that he cares about the black community? Now, I had people tell me, I literally had someone tell me, she's a professor at a prominent university, email me and say, since you support Umar's school and Umar is homophobic. She feels like Umar's homophobic. I don't think he's homophobic because a phobia means you're afraid of something. And I don't see him being, I've never seen anything to say that he's afraid of the gay community. Now, if you want to call him something else, if you want to say he's politically incorrect, well, that's true. I mean, I've said that myself. But homophobic, I think that's a term that gets thrown around a lot. I think it's a term you have to prove. Um, I think that Umar gets in a lot of trouble because he doesn't say what white people want us to say. He doesn't say what liberals want him to say, or conservatives. So he's kind of in his own space. But she literally said that because Umar is homophobic and because you support Umar, I will no longer support you. And the only thing I could say to her was that you're stupid. Um, who says that you have to agree with everything that a person says or does to support one thing that they do? I said, look, there are things that Umar says that I believe in, that I agree with. There are things he might say that I don't agree with, but I agree with this school, and this school is necessary. So I'm not going to let tens of thousands of black boys suffer because um, because I don't agree with one thing that Umar says, and I'm not gonna say I disagree with what Umar says about stuff. I think what Umar lays on the table as far as homosexuality needs to be talked about. But when you're talking about so many black kids growing up in single parent households and being molested by their mother's boyfriends, you can't disconnect that from what happens with their sexuality as adults. I mean, that would be stupid. That would be nonsensical. When you've got more black men going to prison than South Africa sent to prison during the height of apartheid, and there's homosexuality all over prisons, where inmates are so starved of dignity and affection that they end up loving on each other. Uh, you can't disconnect that from what's going on in terms of men on the down low and homosexuality in the black community. That's ignorant. That's retarded. That's well, retarded. I forgot. Retarded is not a politically correct term to use anymore, so I'm going to take that back. In case any retarded people might be watching. But the point is that black people have their own relationship with homosexuality, and so when we try to box all that into one simple narrative that's been fed to us by white liberals that says you can't even ask certain questions because asking those questions is forbidden and it's homophobic to even ask the question. That's bullshit. If somebody tells you that you're forbidden to even ask a question, then what they're saying is that your question, that they're not that they're afraid of both your question and the answer to that question, because the answer to that question will be a threat to their ability to dominate your thinking. It will be a threat to their agenda. So I become very skeptical when people tell me not to even ask a question, not to even have a conversation, not to even share an idea. That's incredibly problematic. So in terms of Umar and his position on any political issue, I encourage people to detach that from how they feel about the good work that Umar is doing. Because I can tell you this: if you voted for Barack Obama, there are probably 10 things you could find in Barack Obama's past that would make you say, "Whoa, I can't believe he did that." There are many things about your favorite leaders that Martin Luther King. There, you can go down the list. Any leader that you've ever had, there are things about that person's life or things about that person has said or whatever that will lead you to say, okay, I don't agree with that. I don't like this thing about that person. So the bottom line. Well, the one thing I should say with the school too is this. I saw where Umar was very upset about the fact that he didn't raise the 5 million that he wanted to raise. I thought going for 5 million was very bold. I really was trying to figure out why he needed $5 million to open one school. Honestly, I honestly admit I wasn't sure I could see that. I felt like 5 million was a lot for one school. If you're building, but again, it takes bold ambition to build bold things, right? So if he was able to raise the 5 million, then God bless him. I mean, we put millions of dollars in the hands of corporations that clearly show you, without any doubt, that they care nothing about your community. Most of us, we black people, put billions of dollars into the hands of Walmart, and Walmart has never stepped up on your behalf when something has happened in your community. Walmart has never stepped up when these black men get shot in the street, black people are being sent to prison, black people are struggling in poverty, black children are not being educated. Walmart does not care about you, but yet you'll give them billions. But yet when somebody like an Umar Johnson asks you for 5 million, you start scoffing like, "Oh Lord, well, I don't know, man. That's too much money. He asked for $25 a month. That's too much." But yet you give $300 a month to your local movie theater whenever a Kevin Hart movie comes out, or whatever. I think that that's crazy to me. So my feeling is that if you're going to support a cause, just support it. Just give them a little bit of money, $20. That's not going to kill you. You will spend $100 and give it to the white man and think nothing of it. But yet, when your brother asks you for $25, you go crazy. You're like, well, what's that nigga doing with my money? I mean, come on. I mean, that's ridiculous to me. So, I think people should support the school. Now, if you were to ask me, you know, what was going on, in terms of the situation, I think a couple things. One, I don't know if I would have been a person that would complain because the black community gave me $250,000. I just think that that's a bit much. I think you can push people to do more. For example, when we're doing our Black Wealth Boot Camp, which starts in July, I will push people to pay, and I'll let them know it's not free, because your freedom's not going to be free. And if you're not willing to pay the cost of your freedom, then you're not even willing to invest in yourself. So why you want me to invest in something that you're not even willing to invest in? You're telling me that you're a defective asset because you won't even give a few dollars or whatever the cost is to build your own future. That means you don't believe in your future. You don't. You invest. I see you put money in other things, but yet you won't put it into yourself. So that tells me that you're not ready. So I have no problem encouraging people and pushing people to spend money on things. Umar has to feed his kids like everybody else, and so that's fine. But I think when you get to the point where you call people trifling because they didn't give you $5 million, I think people are going to take that the wrong way. I think that you have a lot of grassroots supporters who do what they can, who might say, "Look, man, I gave you $100, but that was all I could afford because I'm trying to pay the rent. I'm struggling, right?" And I think that that can be insulting to those people when you look at them and you say, "Well, you didn't do nothing. You ain't doing nothing because you didn't give me money for my project at my school." I think you have to be careful about that because it does come off a little Tavis Smiley esque. Remember when Tavis Smiley went off on President Obama because Obama did not support his State of the Black Union or whatever it was that he had going. I don't know if it was called. I think it was the State of Black America, State of Black, whatever it was called back then. You can't sort of see yourself as the only pathway to black liberation. Just like you have people go that believe that Jesus is the only way to God, whatever, whatever they believe. Well, you have some black leaders who might somehow feel that the only way you can support black people is by giving money to me or by supporting my project. And if you don't support my project, then you don't care about your community. And I'm not saying that's what Umar was trying to say, but I'm saying that's how some people can interpret that, and you have to be careful about that, right? So I think thanking people for the $250,000 they gave you could be a good start. Because black people don't give that much money to hardly anything. I can't think of anybody who's been able to raise $250,000 for one school. I know if you give me $250,000, I can give you at least a list of 50 things I could do to change the lives of thousands of people. No kidding. I mean, $250,000 is a lot of money. I've never raised that much money from black people. We make money by selling products and stuff like that. But as far as like fundraisers, I mean, $250,000, that was an extraordinary effort. That to me was a testament of Umar's fundraising ability. It was a testament of how much people love him and how much they believe in him, and how much they believe in the vision. And so I was very impressed when he raised that money. I think, and then the other thing I think is that when people do give you money, and I talked to Minister Farrakhan about this when he had an economic summit that I attended with some other economic type people, and I told him, I said, when people give you a lot of money, there's a lot of accountability, there's a lot of scrutiny that comes with that. People are going to want to know, what did you do with that money? And one of the things that he talked about was during the Million Man March when he raised money from the brothers and the sisters that were in the audience. He made sure that they accounted for every penny. At least that's what I was told. That they accounted for every single penny. What happened to that money? And I think with Umar's situation, that's the advice I'd probably give to him is, I think there should be some type of transparency on this money, because you got people to give a whole lot of money for one school and the school's not being built because the funds came up short. But the question to me is, well, what can you build with $250,000? And then the other question is, what's happening with that money now that it's not being used to build the school? Personally, I wouldn't care if he was using the money to go on tour and speaking to people and empowering people. I'd support that. I'd say, okay, cool, that's great. He's an educator. He's educating the masses by going around, and actually I believe parents are more important teachers than people in the school system anyway. So when you're educating the educator, then you're ultimately educating the children. But again, that does come with some caveats, but there are different theories on this. So all I'll say is that I encourage you. In my opinion, my thought is, I'll say I can't tell you what to do, but what I'll tell you is what I do. I kind of let go of the whole term black leadership. I'm just not big on that. I'm not looking to Sharpton or anybody else across the board to be a quote unquote leader for me. If you're talking about a leader as somebody telling me what to do, I know we have voices that are prominent. We have people that have expertise that should be listened to, and experience, vision, courage, things that we admire that we can gain something from, and I think it's important to absorb those messages and to process them internally. But ultimately, when it comes to leadership, you should be your own leader. You should be empowered to lead yourself and lead your family when it comes to what you decide to do. So I let that go. Now, as far as Umar and the stripper, um, could it have been handled better? I think so, by both parties. I think that the young lady, she does appear to be disgruntled. I don't understand the idea. I think that her desire to try to say, well, look, if I'm going to lose what I got, you're going to lose what you got. I think that's kind of what you can get with people where they kind of get into that almost like a terroristic mindset that you've taken so much from me that I'm going to destroy me and you at the same time. And it's going to hurt you more because you got more to lose than I do. And so I didn't like seeing all that go down. But I personally, again, what people do with their sex life is not really something I really think that much about, unless what they're doing contradicts heavily from what they say that they're doing. And in this case, that might be true. But even then, you can still say, okay, yeah, this part I wasn't too cool with, but here are all the other things that I like. I don't think you should see your public figures in a one-dimensional framework. I don't think that works. I think it'll cause you to throw away a lot of good people in the process and lose faith in a lot of good people. And because black people have such little trust in themselves and each other, because we've been so traumatized, we're very, very quick to say, I don't trust that nigga. That's the mindset a lot of black people have. And it's interesting to me because we don't I don't think we have that same scrutiny when it comes to whites that we respect, because we know from the beginning that they're flawed. We know from the beginning they come with a certain element of racism, white supremacy, elitism, etc., that is going to detach them from us. So when we look at a Bill Clinton, we know Bill Clinton. We know he was an extreme womanizer. The hookers, the stories about hookers and all these other and random women and blowjobs in the Oval Office and all this other stuff. Notice I almost said oral office. Ain't that funny? And so we know what Bill Clinton's flaws were. We know that Bill Clinton sent more black men to prison than pretty much any other president in the last 100 years, maybe longer. We know about some of the mistakes Clinton made in terms of policy. We know that Bill Clinton is a white man who panders to us and eats barbecue chicken and plays the saxophone to get us to like him when really it's not always backed up with substantive policy. We know all these things, but many of us still admire him because we're comparing him to the standard. We're saying, well, he treats us better than most white men do, so I like him. Right? We look past all the flaws. But I think when you talk about certain people that we identify as quote unquote black leaders, we have a whole different set of standards. And I think it's a very fickle situation, because as soon as you find one chink in the armor, one thing you don't believe in, one thing that goes wrong, one thing that they do that's stupid, one thing that they do that comes off as hypocritical, we're quick to dismiss them. Oh, that blankety blank ain't shit. And I just think that's not smart. I don't think that's smart for any of us. Last thing, if Umar is still raising money for the school, I think you should give money to it. I will give money. And again, to summarize, I just think that if black people give you $300,000, I mean, at least say thank you first, and say thank you repeatedly, and then encourage them to keep doing better, because not everybody's ready to give millions and millions of dollars to the building of one school. I mean, I think that's a pretty hefty load. There are a lot of problems in the black community right now. A lot of problems people are trying to solve in their own families, in their own lives. So they may not always be able to give the way we would like for them to give. I know most black people I know have 1,000 charity cases and hurdles and emergencies in their own lives that they're trying to resolve. We got that drunk ass uncle. We got that child that doesn't have a parent. We got the lost child down the street whose mama's on crack and we're trying to save him. We've got our own problems with trying to get a job, trying to keep a job, dealing with racism in the workplace. We might have issues with the criminal justice system with cops trying to kill us and lock us up at every available opportunity. We got the brother who just got out of prison who's trying to get on his feet, but he's homeless right now because there's nobody offering him a job. We have 1,000. All of us are like baby social workers. All of us have a million things we got to resolve. So sometimes giving money to somebody's GoFundMe campaign or whatever may not be at the top of our priority list. So I just think that those things should be kept into context. And just for the record, bottom line, if you ask me what I think about Umar Johnson, he's one of the people I admire the most in this country. That's not going to change. I've been in, like I said, I've been in probably 3 or 4 movies with him, and every time he brought something to the table that I felt was necessary for people to hear. He's rare. I was happy that Roland Martin invited him on his show because he needs that mainstream media access. Because I don't think that someone like him should be pushed on the fringes at a time like now. Right now, black people are waking up. They're realizing what police are doing to us. They're realizing what the system's doing to us, and your traditional leaders can't do it for you. Sharpton can't really do it for you. Sharpton works for the government. He works for, and I'm not saying that just haphazardly. I mean, he's received tremendous benefits from the Obama administration for carrying their water. So old school leaders may not be the ones that you need right now. You need, well, I use the term leaders again. See, even I'm brainwashed on that. But the old school types, uh, they've had their time, and now it's time to look to others that can give us expertise. But instead of just 1 or 2 people, or one, leaning on this charismatic leadership, we have to shift to organizational kinds of leadership. We have to shift to uh, listening to lots of voices as opposed to just one. And that's why on my channel, that's why you'll hear from lots of different kinds of people, because I don't want you hearing from me all day, because I don't know all the answers. And believe me, don't put me on that perfection pedestal, because I'm not trying to live up to all that. Well, that's all I really want to say. I know I talked for a long time, but I figured since I was talking about Brother Umar, I would take my time to make sure you know exactly what I think. I don't know how people are going to react to it. We have a lot of mutual friends. I don't know if people are going to like it or dislike it, but as you know, my goal is to just do my best to tell you the truth in the best way I know how. So that's it. And just so you know, we have our Black Wealth Boot Camp that's going to start in mid-July. I hope you will sign up. The URL should be up very, very soon at theblackwellthbootcamp.com. And if it's not there, then you can go to boycewatkins.com, which is my website. And from there, you can actually sign up for stuff and watch videos and read articles and all of that. So go to boycewatkins.com on a regular basis. Just come and hang out with me. I love you, and I so appreciate all your support. I'm so glad you're here. So until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. I am gone. Peace.